How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric and welcome to Out of the Groove. Busy week of news and of rumblings. We've got some internal drama in the Team Penske camp to discuss in just a minute, but I want to kick this Friday edition of Out of the Groove off by looking at yet another paint scheme. Chip Ganassi Racing played coy with us all offseason. We weren't sure what cars Ross Chastain would be driving this year. We knew some of the sponsors, but we didn't know what the schemes would look like really until they showed up to Daytona last week. Well, yesterday, Chip Ganassi Racing and Ross Chastain revealed his all-new McDonald's paint scheme that will debut this weekend at the Daytona Road Course, and it's interesting. Look, I'm really happy that McDonald's is back with the team, but this is not their best work, in my opinion. There's a couple questions I have. First, I love the red and I love the yellow. The golden arches are iconic and they're very clear here on the hood. I like that the recent McDonald's schemes have focused heavily on the golden arches and that design, but this scheme there's a few questions I have. Start with the contingency panel. Look at that little M coming off the side skirt there. It's like it's just peeking over the edge of the track. There just seems like a weird gap there. Like this scheme was built for like 6 or 7 years ago when there were a lot more logos on that contingency panel. It just feels like there's a lot of wasted space right there. And then if we look a little further back on the car, we look at the rear of the car, doesn't that just look like that M is incomplete? It's missing the final arch. Is it just me? Like, that looks weird. It's cut off or something. Like, that doesn't look quite right. So, okay, this scheme's not bad. I don't hate it or anything like that. I like the red and yellow, as I said. So, but hey, I'm glad McDonald's stuck with Chip Ganassi in a big way, and they got some good value for their partnership last weekend during the rain delay. During that lengthy red flag in the middle of the Daytona 500, Ross Chastain went and visited a McDonald's across the street in his fire suit. He went through the drive-thru, got it all on video. It was pretty funny. Well, according to Zoomph, who I guess monitors these kinds of things, McDonald's garnered over $52,000 in social media value from that little clip by itself. So some pretty awesome impromptu exposure for McDonald's last weekend. Hopefully they continue to get a lot out of that partnership with Chip Ganassi Racing. Good looking paint scheme, but certainly not my favorite McDonald's scheme from the last several years. Now, this week has been pretty crazy for a lot of people in the country. Millions have been without power or water for extended periods of time. I was without electricity here in Texas for about 48 hours. So I've been playing catch up the last couple days, been uploading a lot of videos, been hitting on a lot of different topics, but this means I have missed on some things that were first discussed earlier in the week. So I want to catch up on them now because these are a couple of stories that I saw earlier in the week when I briefly had power, but I haven't heard many people talking about since then. So I wanted to address these two topics. We'll start with a story from the halls from Team Penske. Now, I do not have a clip of this specific segment. It was a part of NASCAR Race Hub earlier this week when Joey Logano appeared on the show, and he was asked by Adam Alexander if he had talked to Brad Keselowski following their last lap wreck from the lead in the Daytona 500. Logano replied with, "I'm sure we will," and then Jeff Gordon chimed in, "Oh, that's a no, that's a no." Logano then clarified, "I think we've got to cool off. We've got the cool down machine plugged in right now." Effectively admitting that Joey Logano has not yet spoke to Brad Keselowski since that final lap incident in the Daytona 500, an incident I was at least somewhat critical of. If you listen to this week's episode of the NASCAR Weekly podcast, a part of the Out of the Groove podcast network, you can check the link down in the description for all the latest episodes. I do think it's a problem that people are wrecking dramatically at the end of these Daytona races, and quite often it's because of a late block or an ill-advised block or someone pushing way too early in the case of Bell and Busch in this last race. And it's just like, there are no consequences. The consequences used to be drivers get injured or killed, and everyone would have to live with that and see that the very next week. Now that doesn't happen anymore, so where do the consequences actually come from? And right now I just don't see any, so nothing's going to change. But I got a bit heated in that episode because I want drivers to start holding each other accountable once again. We've seen a lot of wrecks on super speedways, especially the Daytona 500 specifically in recent years. And a lot of times it feels like the incidents are extremely avoidable. Like on the last lap there, in my opinion, it was a late block from Joey Logano. Sure, he may say he was doing what he felt he had to do to win the race. If he doesn't try to put that block, Keselowski blows right by him, Logano's chances of winning may be out the window, but as a result of that late block, it set off a huge wreck that could have injured somebody. That was a massive crash we saw at the end of that race. And I'm kind of tired of drivers and people within the sport sort of just being okay with late blocks causing huge and potentially dangerous wrecks. So I wanted drivers, this is what I called for in the podcast the other night, I want drivers to get in each other's faces, or at the very least call each other out by name when they make moves that could be considered bad racing moves. So Brad Keselowski, a teammate of Joey Logano. Of course, he's not going to go out into the media and just absolutely eviscerate, his teammate. He kind of did after the Busch Clash in 2020 when he called out Joey Logano for dumb racing. So he's walked that line with his teammate before, but after this incident, I'm glad to hear Brad Keselowski is not okay with it. He doesn't have to, start fighting Joey Logano, just slamming his head in the mud and kicking sand in his eyes. He doesn't have to, turn to the playground bully or anything like that, but I don't want drivers to just be okay with big wrecks caused by avoidable mistakes. You don't see Denny Hamlin making late blocks like that at Daytona or Talladega very often at all, and that's why he wins these races so often. There is a skill to being good at super speedways, and some drivers, as we've seen in recent years, are prone to making the typical super speedway mistakes more often than other drivers. So I will say, while I don't have the exact clip from NASCAR Race Hub to show you guys, I did think it was interesting to hear that things aren't super comfy within the Team Penske shop at the moment, and I'm happy to hear it. You shouldn't be happy when your teammate effectively takes out himself and you at the very end of the Great American Race when you both have a chance of winning. Roger Penske should not be happy with Joey Logano after Sunday night. Shout out to sportcasting.com for transcribing that dialogue, since I didn't have the actual clip from NASCAR Race Hub to show you guys, but yeah, there's a story there. What do you guys think about that? Are you on Team Keselowski, Team Logano? Do you think Logano was just hard racing, doing what you gotta do? If that's your take, let me know down in the comments. I'm open to hearing you out and hearing what you have to say, but you've heard my piece now on that incident and how I feel about it. I'm glad things are unsteady over at Penske right now. Not because I want the worst for the team. I want Keselowski, Logano, Blaney, I want them to do well this year, but I don't want drivers to be okay with big wrecks caused by what I believe to be avoidable mistakes. So that's what's going on over at Team Penske. We'll see how that develops as the season goes on. It is particularly interesting noting that Keselowski's in a contract year and he's had issues with Logano at super speedways in recent years already. So maybe adding some fuel to the fire at some point, things might boil over. We've seen Keselowski and Logano involved in at-track altercations many times in the past. They are no strangers to controversy. Now that controversy is in-house. Man, those Tuesday meetings had to have been really interesting. I guess they're maybe doing everything virtually now, so they can just mute each other on Zoom. It's not as exciting, I suppose, as it might be in person. But anyway, we've got other things to talk about. The big story I want to focus on today, and this is brought to you by Alka-Seltzer, available at Walmart. But earlier this week on the Door Bumper Clear podcast, a part of the Dirty Mo Dale Jr. Media Network, Freddie Kraft, Bubba Wallace's spotter in the NASCAR Cup Series, let slip an interesting detail about Toyota Racing's future plans.
I think you're going to see more Toyotas next year. I think you'll probably see at least 2 out of our shop. If I had to guess, I have no fact based on that, but if I had to guess, there'd be at least 2. I think you'll see a team that's out there now switch to Toyota. A Chevy team that's one of the lower tier Chevy teams, but I think they're going to make a switch.
David Wilson was talking about bringing new Toyota teams into Cup to have more competitive stuff. And so this week he said, I think the sport is going to be rocked. Stay tuned when asked about new owners coming into the Toyota camp.
So Freddie Kraft, as I said, is Bubba Wallace's spotter over at 2311 Racing, the all-new Toyota team. So he's on the inside. I mean, it's not like we're talking to Denny Hamlin or Michael Jordan specifically there, but he is on the inside. He knows at least more than we do about what's going on at 2311, what Toyota's future plans are. And effectively, he just admitted that Toyota is very close, if not definitely, planning to add another Cup Series team next year. Now, it's unclear if that means they'd be bringing, as he puts it, a lower tier Chevy team in-house. Like, say, we'll talk specifics in a moment, but say they may bring JTG Doherty in-house. It may not be JTG Doherty anymore. They may become a part of 2311 Racing. It'll just be the 47 car, since that's the only chartered team they have at the moment. Or will JTG Doherty continue to be JTG Doherty, and they will just now have Toyota funding? That team was a Toyota team back from 2009 to, I think, 2013. I think the first year of the Gen 6. That's pretty interesting, and it falls in line with other rumors and hints that we've seen in recent months. Remember, it was just a few months ago that Denny Hamlin himself posted on his Instagram story blueprints for the 2311 Racing shop, with room and space drawn out to fit 4 full-time NASCAR Cup Series teams. Also recently, earlier this week, discussions of 2311 Racing building a brand new race shop surfaced. So with all that in mind, with all the backing that Hamlin and Jordan are getting from Toyota, it's not surprising to hear discussions of 2311 Racing expanding beyond just a single car team in the near future. But it sounds like, based on what Freddie Kraft said, if you take what Freddie Kraft says at his word, it sounds very likely that 2311 Racing will expand to a 2-car team by next season. Now, David Wilson from Toyota Racing Development has also hinted that whatever this new team may be could rock the NASCAR world, could be a huge announcement. And since Freddie Kraft mentions it could be a lower tier Chevy team that switches to Toyota this offseason, that's got my creative juices flowing a little bit. My imagination is on full blast at the moment. What announcement could truly rock the NASCAR world? It's just a team changing manufacturers, unless maybe he's talking about Richard Petty Motorsports? I mean, could you imagine Richard Petty switching to Toyota? I mean, they kind of have a relationship. I don't know how good of a relationship it is now with Bubba Wallace. I mean, it'd be kind of interesting if Eric Jones, assuming he's still their driver, who just got booted from Toyota, comes right back to Toyota after just one season away at Chevy. That's maybe a connection. They also, 2311 Racing and Richard Petty Motorsports, I believe, do share at least some sponsorship connections. I believe Columbia Sportswear is going to be a sponsor for Bubba at 2311, but they've also stuck with Richard Petty for some amount of races, or at least an associate deal this year. The idea of Richard Petty bringing his famous 43 to Toyota Racing Development, joining forces in a way with Michael Jordan as a new Toyota partner, that would absolutely rock the NASCAR news world. Hey, all I'm saying is I was way ahead of most people on the Michael Jordan to NASCAR rumors, back when they weren't even really rumors at that point. I kind of just invented that one out of thin air. So this is my big bold prediction for 2021. Richard Petty switches to Toyota and closely aligns with JGR and TRD and all that great stuff. I mean, why else would David Wilson hint at something that's going to rock the NASCAR world? I mean, look at the other small Chevy teams out there. Come on. I mean, no disrespect, but we talked about JTG Doherty, which may make more sense or be more likely given that they've been with Toyota in the past, and they might benefit here in the next couple of years from Toyota's developing pipeline of drivers. Let's see, there's also, Spire, I guess, but I feel like Spire's really doing their own thing. I don't think Spire's in any real position to jump over to Toyota. Who else? They're Trackhouse. I guess that's a new team this year. Pitbull. I mean, bringing Pitbull over, but I think Trackhouse is pretty well committed to what they're doing. So when we look at some of these small tier Chevy teams, I'm just saying, guys, Richard Petty Motorsports makes the most sense. I would not be shocked. I mean, I'm shocked right now. The idea of thinking about it right now is kind of shocking, but now that we've got these feelers out here, I'm getting used to it. I'm warming up to the idea. I just hope they keep the famous Petty 43. The style stays basically the same, but hey, honestly, if switching to Toyota means that Richard Petty Motorsports becomes competitive, we get to see that 43 contending up front on a weekly basis again, I may be all for it, quite honestly. Some of those other teams may make sense as well. Then we have to talk about drivers. Who could possibly fill these seats, especially if 2311 Racing expands to a two-car team and then Toyota gets another team out of nowhere that becomes a Toyota team? Like, who's going to fill these slots? If Richard Petty switches to Toyota, I hope they keep Eric Jones in that seat for at least one more year. That would be good. He deserves that. As for that second seat at 2311 Racing, I mean, this is where, we've talked about Toyota's sort of reloaded development system for this year, between Ty Gibbs and Ty Dillon making some starts in the Xfinity Series, between John Hunter Nemechek jumping down to trucks full-time for KBM, Chandler Smith, talented teenager, running full-time down there as well, Daniel Hemrick, a more veteran driver with plenty of experience racing full-time in Xfinity, of course Harrison Burton coming off a 4-win season, Brandon Jones coming off a 3-win season. Toyota's got some pretty solid drivers right now in their truck and Xfinity Series lineups. I know Ty Dillon just made a start for 2311 in the Busch Clash, but I don't think he would be the front runner for that seat. At least he wouldn't be my front runner. No disrespect to Ty Dillon, but we've kind of already seen the Ty Dillon show, and he hasn't shown us anything particularly special. I know he was with Germain Racing for many years, but if you even look at his Xfinity and Truck Series stats back when he was racing for his grandfather at RCR, a very competitive Xfinity team, results just were not that special. So I don't really want to see Ty Dillon take that spot. I'd rather that second 2311 car go to, if Harrison Burton has another 4-win season, I'd love to see Harrison Burton get that ride, quite honestly. We'll see who fills that second 2311 seat, but the most interesting nugget, I think, from this whole thing is what that potential Chevy team will be that switches to Toyota this offseason. That could completely shake up the NASCAR world and shake up free agency. That's true. We don't have to give that second 2311 spot to a young or rookie driver. It could go to an existing driver. I mean, Brad Keselowski's in a contract year. Matt DiBenedetto's looking for a new deal. Alex Bowman, the list goes on and on. There are some very talented, more veteran drivers already in the Cup Series that we could see team up with Toyota next season, especially if some more spots open up. Matt DiBenedetto, now that I think about it, might be a great choice. A guy who's driven for Joe Gibbs before in the lower series and was briefly with Toyota in 2019. That would be a pretty cool reunion, I'd say. So we'll have to wait and see, of course, but a lot of interesting nuggets being dropped from the guys at Door Bumper Clear. interesting rumors that aren't getting a lot of discussion this week, at least not as much as I think they should. So we're bringing it up here on a Friday here at Out of the Groove. Let me know what you guys think about my wild conspiracy theories, but also what Freddie Kraft had to say on Door Bumper Clear earlier this week. Do you think he's making stuff up to just drum up excitement, or do you think he actually knows what he's talking about and has some hard evidence behind it to back it up that we may see come forward here in the next few months? Let me know what you guys think down in the comments, but that is all I've got for today's episode. Thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel. We talk NASCAR daily, and now that the season is here, things are certainly not slowing down. As always, an amazing thank you to my fantastic Patreon supporters. Could not do the show without your incredible support. It's Daytona Road Course weekend starting tonight with the Trucks. Man, Trucks Xfinity Cup. It's a triple header at the road course. Very, very exciting. I hope you all enjoy the racing this weekend. Look out for live reactions, live stream reactions from me, and of course an Out of the Groove Sunday night reacting to the Cup Series event. Maybe this weekend we'll get some rain. See how this works? A week ago we were begging for the rain to stay away, and of course it didn't. This week we're kind of, some rain would shake things up. I've looked at the forecast. There's like no rain in the forecast, so the rain tires are probably not going to be used too much, but it's funny how NASCAR works. One week to the next, just things change dramatically. It's all I'm saying. While we think schedule changes are going to fix all of our problems, Florida weather will always find a way to keep us on our toes. Anyway, that's all I've got. Thanks for watching. I will see you later this weekend.